Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video of No Panic. Today I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Charlotte Armitage about the upcoming No Phones at Home Day campaign. So Charlotte, could you just give us a brief introduction of yourself and the campaign?
Hi, I'm Dr. Charlotte Armitage. I am a psychologist and psychotherapist. I specialize in working in the media. So that's sort of working behind the scenes in TV, but also looking at how we interact with the media, so specifically with devices. I'm the author of Generation Zombie, which is a book that is all about how devices are harming our children and what we can do about it. So that's coming out February 25, available for pre-order now. Now, No Phones at Home Day is a day that I launched a couple of years ago to encourage people to put down the devices and focus on interacting with the people that we have around us. I believe that it's this lack of interaction and this disconnection that devices facilitate, is causing mental health problems throughout the nation and across different generations.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Technology has kind of taken over everyone and everyone's got their face attached to a screen. So I'm just going to ask a couple of questions about the impact of phones on mental health and relationships. So can you tell me a bit more how phones can impact relationships with families?
I mean, as you just mentioned, having your face in a phone. So ultimately, I think that they're a barrier. They are a barrier to our connection. So, especially for children, in order to develop healthily, so to develop speech and language, motor skills, cognitively, psychologically, we need the adults to be present with the child. So if we have parents who are face down in devices, and then we have children who are face down in devices, there's this double disconnect. So children aren't having that attachment and they aren't having those relationships, those sort of really intense, nuanced relationships with their primary caregivers that they would ordinarily have had. And that then has an impact on their mental health and well-being. The problem is when it starts young, is it's that's like the catalyst, and it just is compounded throughout the rest of the child's life through different events that go on. And I do talk about this in the book, and I just talk about the book because I have case studies in there, and it's much easier to understand it through a case study than me to sort of explain it like this because it's quite complicated how it happens and it's quite subtle as well. And I think that's the problem with devices; it's a very subtle impact. But it's the disconnection. It's the fact that we're not present with each other. We're not connecting with each other. We are social. We're a social species. We need to be connected with each other. And actually, there was a longitudinal study done, and they found that the key to a long life, so a life longevity, is the depth and meaningfulness of the relationships that we have. And in order to have those relationships, requires a complex set of skills that enable us to navigate those relationships. And the building blocks and foundations of that start in the very early years in childhood.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I definitely agree that it can be quite subtle and it just progresses over time that you don't really realize that it can be happening. So what are some of the mental health concerns associated with excessive phone usage at home?
To be honest, far and wide reaching, honestly. I mean, it's not just mental health, just so you know. I mean, obviously, it depends on the age to start with, but the research says that the younger a child gets a phone, the poorer the mental health outcomes in adolescence and adulthood. So, internalizing symptoms, externalizing symptoms. So, internalizing would be anxiety, suicidal thoughts, self-harm. Externalizing would be behavioral problems, so it might be outbursts of anger, could be drug use, alcohol use, various factors. So the ideal is to just not give children phones, really, because it can be really problematic for them. It's related to all sorts of mental health problems, but I think it's a much more subtle and insidious impact that we're seeing. So actually, you've got to think about how it affects their identity, their attitude, their behavior. So when children, teenagers are looking through social media, they're seeing what other people are doing online. That's having an impact on them. That's overwhelming. There's a pressure to perform. There's a pressure to fit in, which is just magnified by 1,000, if not more, online because there's so many more eyes on you. And that's a lot of pressure for a young person, which is anxiety inducing. But also the choice is anxiety inducing. There's so much choice of lifestyle, how you want to be, how you want to live, how dress, wear, what you want to eat. And that is a lot for a child to assimilate all of that information and work out who they want to be. Ordinarily or historically, we would become who we become based on our family, our school environment, and our communities, and maybe any other activities we did, not via the voices of the entire world. So that's one of the reasons, but we're seeing, for example, speech and language delay in children. So children starting school with behind where they should be developmentally. The reason this is a problem is because it affects their relationships. It affects how they feel about themselves, their own confidence, but it affects how well they can form relationships at school as well. Highest rates of obesity that we've seen in a very long time because we're much more sedentary now. Everything can be done by a device. You could actually probably live from home for a long, long time without ever going anywhere. You could order your food in. You could probably do your exercise at home if you wanted to. You can work from home. So you can do everything from home, can't you? So we're much more sedentary. Spend most of our lives sat behind a screen like this now, and now we barely even get up to go to work because we can all work from home. So there are many ways in which devices are contributing to our physical and mental health, even musculoskeletally. Our bodies are, we're hunched over. We spend a lot of time like this. So children get tech neck and adults. So pain in the neck from sitting like that. Um, Myopia, so short-sightedness as well, record numbers of that. So actually devices are just problematic. They're just in the way of everything. I feel it's what No Phones at Home Day is all about, is I just feel they're in the way of everything. In the middle of every interaction, everything we do is some sort of smart device.
I think devices can really cause us to isolate ourselves. Like you said, especially that everything can be done at home. It can cause like a lot of isolation. And also, you said about comparisons. I mean, I know I'm guilty of going on social media and you just start comparing yourself to others, but it's all, it is not real. It's not the real life. And I feel like people can get really caught up in it. And yeah, they kind of do forget what is real and what is reality. What are some of the positive changes you
Mm.
observed from reducing phone usage?
So when I work with schools and they help teenagers in schools to reduce their device use, I've noticed that they report that they sleep better. They're so deeper and for longer. So instead of being up till midnight scrolling, they feel bored, so they go to bed at 10, which is normal. Then they're sleeping in a bit longer because they're not waking up anxious to see what's on their phone. Um, they have a deeper sleep because they haven't got as much cortisol flowing around the bloodstream. uh, Better dietary choices, because when you're tired, you make poor choices the next day. So when you sleep better, you make better choices the next day, more motivation to get up and do things, better attentiveness. So we know there is a link between using devices, using screens or smartphones, especially, and ADHD. And obviously, we're seeing huge numbers of people now reporting that they have ADHD or symptoms of it. But what we are seeing is that when children, especially teenagers, reduce the amount of time that they're spending on the device, their attentiveness is improved. Um, Better relationships with their family and friends, more engagement in other activities. So things like musical instruments, arts, sports. Now, these are really important in the child years and also in the adolescent and teen years, because these are where children learn new skills, but this is where they develop confidence. This is where they develop tenacity. So people were engaging more in all of these activities that all contribute to better psychological health.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I mean, what you were saying about sleeping better, I'm guilty of going on my phone before bed sometimes, and I struggle to get to sleep. So I started reading before going to bed, and it switches off your brain. And yeah, I sleep so much better now. So Yeah. I'm going to be asking you a bit more about the
Good.
practical implementation of the campaign. So in my family, we have a no phones at the dinner table rule. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yes, 100%. That's in my book, actually, isn't it? Just one of the things. I just think for so many reasons, no devices at the dinner table. It's just, first of all, rude. One, you can focus on what you're eating. Two, you can focus on the people that you're with. Children, especially, no devices at the dinner table. That child needs to learn from the adults that are around them. This is a good place for the child to learn to talk. Interestingly, I did a talk about all of this about a month ago, and someone who was at the talk he has a young sort of 3-year-old, and I had a meeting with him last week, and him and his partner both said to me that after the talk they took the device away at the dinner table, and they said that their speech and language has come on so much just from that one change, because children they acquire language by listening to um, and speaking. So they need an opportunity to hear, to observe, and then to practice. So it's interaction. Children learn from interaction. And when we're behind a device or they're behind a device, none of us are interacting. So yeah, we I think just even for us as adults though, to be able to not be stressed by a phone at dinner time, it's not good for our stomach. We ideally need the phone away, out the room, not thinking about it, so that we can sit, eat our dinner in peace, talk to the people that we're with, pay some attention to those people, find out about how their day's been, find out how they're doing, and connect with them. I mean, the dinner, sharing food, I think it's something obviously that everybody does. And I think it's a good time for us to put the devices down. So, yeah, I think that's a great idea, making sure you've got that rule all the time.
Yeah, thank you. And can you suggest any other strategies to reduce phone usage in homes without the children feeling overly restricted?
It is about setting kind of social norms of what's normal in your household. So it might be no phones before breakfast. I'd say some other easy things are to have device-free zones. So whether that's a room or a part of a room, it might be a time of the day, like you said, dinner time is a time that you don't have phones. I would say charging everything downstairs. So no phones upstairs, no devices upstairs. If you're going to use devices, just keep it downstairs. It's very easy for any of us to sit in bed and scroll. So whether that's an adult or a child, problem with it being a child is they can be accessing all sorts of content we don't want them accessing. The problem with it for us as adults is that we just end up down rabbit holes doing either work or on social media or things we just shouldn't be doing. And that then affects our sleep because our boundaries have been crossed, haven't they, if we're working when we're lying in bed. So I think just leaving the devices downstairs, have a charging station where everything's just charged downstairs, but setting some rules about what is considered normal, safe, and healthy use of devices in your household. And you, as the adult, have to model those behaviors, and then your child will follow suit. But there are various things that you can do. And I think when you do it, you want to focus on replacing the activity with something else. So if it's for you as an adult, you want to think, what am I going to do instead? You said you've started reading a book, which is brilliant. So reading a book? Is it learning an instrument? Is it doing some drawing? What is it that you're going to meditating, going for a bath? What is it that you're going to do in that time where you take the device away? So that's really key, that when you're taking something away, that we replace it with an alternative, especially for children. With children, it isn't a case of going, right, well, we'll take the phone away. Let's just put you in front of um, the TV or something. It should ideally be something where we're saying, what can you focus on now to connect with each other? Um, so ideally something where if you're going to paint something together, going to read together, maybe play a board game, but something interactive, something that fosters connection.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then I want to ask you about the kind of future of the campaign. Obviously, technology is always evolving. Like now we've got smartwatches. Do you know how you kind of want how the campaign might evolve in terms of that?
I do think that watches are intrusive, to be honest. I had an Apple Watch. I just don't wear it now, but I do use something like a tracking ring for health. But I don't use the watch because I did find it annoying where it popped up with messages, and I think I don't. want this message right now. So as much as I liked it for health, I didn't really want the intrusive nature of it. So I think the purpose of No Phones at Home Day is for people to become more consciously aware about how devices impact them, especially in the family unit, and to have a day where they just focus on not having on the device. So when you spend a day without a device, you would start to realize how much you use that device. Once you start to become consciously aware, then you will make different choices and different decisions about how you integrate that device into your life going forward. And the same goes for the Apple Watch or any watch, any smartwatch. So I don't think the campaign will necessarily branch out to that, because I don't think that there is problematic, because you're not going to sit and scroll on a watch, as much as they might be a little bit annoying. You're not going to sit and scroll, or it's not going to take loads of your time because it's just uncomfortable to sit with your arm like that anyway. So I think, honestly, I don't think the watch is a big issue, but I think that it's the phones, it's devices, it's those things that we can, even with all the will in the world and knowing as much as we know, we can still check one email and an hour later be somehow lost in email, social media, apps. So, it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to do it, and so they're the problem. So I think the focus is always going to be on devices. So it's phones and iPads. Obviously, if they make any more, I would, if they make any more devices which become as addictive, then I think we'd potentially branch out to that. But what I'd like to see ideally is more people engaging in this campaign, more people recognizing the impact that these devices have on their mental health and well-being, and people setting some boundaries. Ultimately, that's it. Set some boundaries on how devices are used, educate yourself on the impact the devices have on you and your children, and make some different choices going forward to protect their health and well-being.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Kind of follows on from what I was about to ask of how can people get involved in the campaign. So obviously you said about setting boundaries and understanding the kind of dangers of devices in that sense. Is there any other suggestions?
Well, the campaign is on the third Saturday of January every year. And we, on that day, encourage everybody to put their devices down, focus on connecting with one another. My advice is make a plan for the day. So you might want to plan some board games or some activities, or you might want to go for a walk or organize a day out. So focus on doing something where you're connecting with each other. I'd encourage everybody to reflect on how it feels to not have their phone. It may not feel comfortable at first, or it might feel comfortable. We don't know. But if it doesn't feel comfortable, that's completely normal. You're so used to having these phones now. Focus on how you feel. If you can't do a whole day, do half a day. Just do as much as you feel you can do. Um, Ideally, I would say no less than half a day if you can try and do it. Although I think, I don't know, it's a difficult one. Make it a challenge to set for half a day or a day. If you can't do it, it's still going to have been good that you consciously tried to engage in it. In terms of going forward, like you said there, set some boundaries around device use, educate yourself on device use, think about where you're using your phone, how intrusive it is. Ask other people who are around you how you and your on your device makes them feel, and you do the same for everybody else in your unit. So whether that's you, maybe you live with a group of friends, maybe you live with a partner, maybe you live with a friend, maybe you live with your parents, maybe you live with your children and your partner, or just your children. But ask whoever it is that you live with, how does me being on my phone make you feel? And ask, and you also tell the people you live with the same. So you start to understand, actually, oh, when I'm on my phone, my children don't like this, or my partner doesn't like it, or whatever it might be. And that sort of helps to move it forward as well. So there's quite a lot you can do. Like I say, I mean, the book isn't out until February, but there's quite a lot in the book on how to do this at home. So there's a whole device reduction in there for people aged 8 and under, and then those aged 9 and above, and adults themselves. There's a list of 30 different ideas that you can use to reduce your screen time. We also have a parent pack on the Be Device Wise website where parents can download this pack with lots of activities and a journal and logs and all sorts of things on there to help them with their device reduction journey that they're going through in their homes. But honestly, it's when you start to become consciously aware. So just engage in that one day. you do that day and reflect on it, you start to become consciously aware of how much you're using your device and the impact it's having, or it starts to, the seed is planted then. And then you will slowly start to make different choices regarding how you use your devices over time. And that's just a natural process.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's great that there's so many resources that people can see. I'll definitely be trying to participate, see how long I can go without my phone. It will be a challenge, but
Good.
I think it will be good to have some reflection on it. The book that you mentioned, are people able to pre-order it or?
Yeah, so the book's available for pre-order from all major retailers. So it's called Generation Zombie, Why Devices Are Harming Your Children and What You Can Do About It. If you go to my Instagram, which is the media psychologist, there's a link on there. But I think if you just Google that, the name of the book, it'll come up with places that you can pre-order. So it's available for pre-order now, and it'll be published on the 13th of February 2025.
That's really exciting. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Charlotte. It's been great learning about this day.
Yeah,
I'll leave the link to the No Phones at Home Day website in the description below, and I can also leave the link to pre-order your book as well in there. Yeah,
perfect.
thank you all for watching. We'll see you in another video.